Ethnographic research and grounded theory. Introduction. Ethnography is a qualitative research looking at the social interaction in a given environment. Here the researcher provides an in-depth insights into the user's views, actions, sounds, and it provides the researcher with an understanding how those users see the world. So how the person uses the world, how the person interact with the world, how the person interact with the community. These are the things coming under the ethnography. It's one of the qualitative research. What is ethnography research? Ethnography is a study through direct observation of users in their natural environment rather than in a lab. So it's everything observed in a natural environment. The objective of this type of research is to gain insights into how users interact with the things in their natural environment. And ethnography methods include direct observation, diary studies, video recordings, photography, and artifact analysis such as devices that a person uses throughout the day. And here observation can be made from their users' workplace, home, and while they are going out with the family and friends. And the length of studies can vary depending on the research that is being conducted. So based upon the research which we have conducted, the length of the study may vary. And they can range from a couple of hours of observation to studies that last even several months. There are two methods of observation. First is the passive observation. The passive observation, which can also be known as shadowing, where a user or users are shadowed while they go about with everyday tasks observed by a researcher. Here sometimes before the research begins, users will be interviewed on their own or in groups to learn about them and their needs. So here if you want to collect any information from a member or a people, we will be interview them about their needs, what are the needs that we will be inquire from them, and observations will be documented throughout the day using a number of methods such as taking notes. So whatever the interaction we are making with the subject, the notes we will be taking, and even we can take photograph, sketches or videos. Second is an contextual interview. So contextual interview, where the researcher will interact with users while observing them going about their everyday task. Here the interviews will be held in a natural environment so as not to feel too formal. So everything, whatever the things we are following systematically, everything will be occurred in the natural environment. Here the researcher will observe user going about their everyday tasks. Whenever the people are going out to do any task, whatever the things occurring naturally, everything will be observed and recorded, and ask questions to gain insight. Coming to the analysis. The analysis of findings will vary depending on the method that has been used to gather the insights. Here, both cases, though, the researcher was to obtain in-depth interview and how they are completing the task, and researcher will be looking after all the patterns and themes of the data. And mainly we will be look for the challenges and the barriers that users encountered and how this affected different users. Coming to the advantages of ethnographic research. It's the ability to first hand how users, it's the primary information, primary sources. So first hand how users interact with the technology we can observe directly from the subjects. Then identify unexpected issues that you might not have encountered in an usability test. Sometimes by your imagination we may not be guess this type of issues may occur in the particular community or particular subject. So that all the unexpected issues we can observe when we are observing the things, certain things directly. Then opportunity to test new product ideas before they are released to the market to see what demand is like. Sometimes new products, something is changed or something is there in the community, before it's releasing in the market we will be get the information it earlier. Coming to the disadvantages of ethnographic research. Because there is a greater insight into the user, it may takes much longer to generate and analyze all the findings. And short studies may not get a user acting naturally as they are aware of the researchers present. Then the cost of conducting ethnographic studies is typically much higher. So sometimes we have to spend more amount of resources the money, so it may be costing the it's so much of money we have to spend, so it's the cost of conducting ethnographic research is typically much higher when we are comparing with other type of research. Coming to the conclusion, ethnographic studies are a good way to really understand your users and the challenges that may face while going. So you can understand what about the society culture, how they are interacting with the people, community, what is the interactions, whether they are having the positive relationship with the community. These all the things can be studied in a natural manner by having the ethnographic research. So here the researcher will give insights to the users that may not have seen if they were in lab being asked. So in case if anything has been done formally, we may not be knowing what is the exact thing happening in the community. So everything can be absorbed naturally in the community. That is the ethnographic research. Grounded theory. The term grounded theory denotes dual reference, that is the two reference. First, a method consisting of flexible methodological studies. So here we will not rely on only a single methodology, there will be flexible, the methodology can be changed. And the second, the products of this type of inquiry, increasingly researchers use the term to mean the method of inquiry for collecting in particular and analyzing data. So first, even the methodology strategies are flexible, it can be changeable. And then second, the products of this type of, it's mainly depend upon the inquiry. Definition given by Martin and Joyner in 1986 have mentioned that grounded theory is an inductive theory discovery methodology that allows the researcher to develop an theoretical account of the general features of a topic, while simultaneously grounding the account in the empirical observation of data. Here the researcher allows the researcher to develop theoretical account. So whatever the problems we are facing, always it will be faced in a generalized manner, while simultaneously grounding the account in the empirical observation of data. Coming to the features of grounded theory, here data collection, the same time we will start the analysis. So both the data collection and analysis done simultaneously, and categories and analytic codes developed from data. Then pre-existing conceptualizations not to be used. So we can't, so whatever the things occurred, the same thing only we have to analysis. So we can't predict anything, we can't assume anything, that is the pre-existing conceptualization not be used. This is known as theoretical sensitivity. So we can't assume anything, whatever the things occurred, that will be analyzed. Then theoretical sampling used to define categories. So always we will depend upon the theoretical sampling. Then abstract categories constructed inductively. So whatever the ideas, everything will be constructed inductively. Then social processes discovered in the data, and then analytical memos used between coding and writing. These are the features of grounded theory. Coming to the characteristics of grounded theory. The first, overview and phases of grounded theory. And always the grounded theory starts with a situation. So that situation, the task of the researcher is to understand what is happening there. So if you want to observe something or do something, first of all we need a situation, is it? So then next, what we will do? We need a task to understand what is happening and the core variable, how the players manage their role. After each hour of data collection, the researcher notes down the key issues. This is known as note taking. So we need a situation. So some situation arising, we have to understand what is the core variable, how the managers managing the thing, and after each hour of data collection, we have to note down the issues. That is called the note taking. And the constant comparison lies on the heart of the process. Here, the researcher compared the initial data to the theory and the comparison are written in the margin of the notes taken as code. So here, whatever the things we are observing while occurrence of some situation, incident in the situation, that the same thing we have to compare with the theoretical concept. And the researcher task is to identify categories and the properties from these codes. And the researcher's codes, there may be links between categories or core category may emerge. And the category which appears central to study and proceedings into this step provides the researcher with the final theory. And the researcher writes further notes about this theory which is called memoing. So what exactly we do? We will be observe something, what is happening in the particular situation. We will write a notes and whatever it's already we have in the theory, just we will be compare whatever the things observing and whatever the things written in the notes. So here the researcher further notes about this theory is called memoing. And coming to the methodology. An important methodological technique in grounded theory is constant comparison. Only thing we will be comparing. So example, when we are writing a case study or a CP, what we will have? We will be having a book picture and we will have a patient profile. So what we will do, right side we will comparative study we will be writing. The same thing will be happening in the grounded theory. So here the important methodological technique in grounded theory is constant comparison. Although this method is frequently considered to be an inductive means of developing theory. Example, a community health nurse is using grounded theory methodology to study scapegoating in dysfunctional families. Here the nurse limits the study to those families have children, and observation for the purpose of collecting data occurs primarily in the home of participants, and family interaction and communication patterns are assessed through observation and interviews as well as role playing. Here we are having various steps. First, data collection, note taking, coding, memoing, sorting, and finally writing. The next, sources of data collection. So sources of data collection grounded theory, mainly the researcher uses his or her senses. There are a lot to be learned just observing. So all the things is coming based on the senses. How you are observing some of the evidence within minutes of entering. So some people will be having the courtesy to observe a thing within a short of second. And some people for the remembrance of certain things we need an hour or even a 1 hour or 2 hours. That will be depending upon the subjects. Sources of data collection. So what are the sources? Audio or video tape recording, having diaries, case studies, even artwork and participant observation, and having a documentation, then formal and informal interviews. These are the sources of data collection. Audio and video tape recording, diaries, case studies, artwork, participant observation, documents, formal and informal interviews. Data analysis. So the research projects in nursing studies tend to have sampled 25 to 50 people and are conducted by in-depth interview, data collection notes, and typed interview transcript or videotape, audio tape conversation that contain multiple pieces of data to be stored and analyzed. So here we will be having a clumsy of data in various forms. So what we will do, we will be arranging systematically whatever the data we have stored, and we should do the analysis. And before doing the analysis, what we have to do, we have to systematically arrange the thing by coding and categorizing the data. There are several steps of coding, that is open, axial, and selective coding. First, let us see what is open coding. Open coding is nothing but it's a part of the analysis related to categorizing, identifying, naming, and describing phenomena. Axial coding, it is a process of connecting codes, properties and categories to each other through deductive and inductive thinking. Then selective coding is the act of selecting one category as the core category and connecting all categories to that category. Then coming to the types of grounded theory, there are two main types of grounded theory. First one is substantive theory and formal theory. And substantive theory is the grounded in data on specific substantive areas such as postpartum depression. So substantive theory mainly we will be concentrating on only on specific area, that is example postpartum depression. Then second is formal theory. Formal theory, substantive theory serves as a springboard for developing a higher, more abstract level of theory from a complicated substantive. So here we will be concentrating on the complicated things of particular phenomena. That is, grounded theory was conducted by a group of researchers which looked at how parents coped with difficult times when caring for a chronically ill patients. Thank you.